Welcome to this week's segment, which runs a little long. We didn't realize when we began this that with the introduction and the time it took to work with the colt, we'd be pushing half an hour, which is longer than we like to do. So hang in there. What I didn't do, and this is important to me, I did not cut anything out that happened, including me fumbling around with ropes or anything that happened that wasn't perfect. Whenever I see a video that's obviously been edited, I really wonder what happened off camera. Here, what you see is what you get. There are a few awkward moments, and I spent some time fooling around getting things squared away. I thought of that as wasted time until I watched this back, and see if you agree with me when you watch it, whether that wasted time was really time well spent, letting this young horse soak and think things through and become more accepting. After the fact, that's how I look at it. See what you think.
Good morning, I'm Herm Gailey. We're here to do a segment that deals with having your horse ready to learn, having his mind ready to learn. And virtually everybody else in my family, my daughter, my wife, my mother-in-law, both my sister-in-laws, my son-in-law, are teachers. And they all tell me that you should have visual aids. So I thought I'd have a visual aid. So what I did was I have a muck bucket, a sponge, and a pitcher of water. One of the important things to teaching your horse anything is to have them ready to absorb what you need to present. And if your horse is troubled, if he's not relaxed, if he's scared, if he's just too energized, maybe you deal with that before you start the training process. Because if you see, if this is the knowledge here in this picture, and you're going to try to get your horse to absorb that, you're going to try to present something to them. If they're not ready, this is kind of how it goes. Doesn't sink in, it splatters, their thoughts go everywhere. They're not learning anything. On the other hand, if instead of the horse's brain being hard and impervious like that muck bucket, it's more like this sponge, your horse is relaxed, your horse is ready, the whole process is going to be easier, more productive, and safer. So if I pour this on here, some of it's going to overshoot, some of it's going to go on, but guess what? You've got some absorption. You got something that's starting to work. If you take it to the next level, we'll get rid of those spilled thoughts there. If you take it to the next level, and maybe you introduce the thoughts in a more inviting way, maybe take a little more time, and you let the horse have a little time, literally, to soak. You wind up with a situation where a whole lot of that has now gotten through. Quite a bit of it just ran down my sleeve. But that's sort of a graphic way to think about what we present to our horses. Because if you were to look back over the video series that we've done so far, you'd see that a lot of the things, a good example would be the scary objects video with this yearling filly we have over here, and she's watching. You may want to show her, Kim. Yeah, she's watching this segment, and she was in the scary objects segment, and she didn't put on much of a show because she was ready. She was ready to absorb those things. And if you were to watch that video, you'd say not much happened. And I would refer back to Ray Hunt, where he frequently would say, it's not what happened, it's what happened before what happened happened. Untangle that linguistic formulation, and you learn a lot about training your horse. Present it to them when they're ready. Have the background set, and the whole process will be easier, more productive, and safer. So what we're going to do is we're going to do an advancement on working with a tarp with the young horse. Now last week, and we'll try to cut in a little bit of footage here, I tried to have a wreck doing this. It came out okay in the end, but we never got it to where we wanted because frankly, I put the horse in a position that he wasn't ready to accept, and he didn't accept it. Blame's on me, not on him. Today we're going to try to fix that by introducing the process to him, maybe a little more like this. Because what happened last week was a little more like that. Now I got it down my boot. So we're going to try not to splatter things all over the place in the round pen. Stick with us and we will work with a young horse with a tarp on another horse from above, which will mimic some of the things that you may be doing when you ride him, the commotion that we inevitably cause when we're up there above our horse. Stick around. So we're back on camera with the colt we call Mike. He is a yearling. He's about 18 months old now. He came from the Open Box Rafter Ranch in South Dakota. He and his pasture mate both came from there. You saw her looking over the fence a little while ago. They're both really working out to be nice horses, and I'm trying to introduce them to all the things that may happen when we start riding them and start working them. Quick word on my horse's appearance, both of them. You know, notice Mike has a bunch of soiled spots on him. He had something the equivalent of rain rot. I think he's growing a winter coat. He got wet and it sort of incubated some sores in there, which I've been treating, and it's going real well. The sores are pretty much gone. The salve that treated him is still there, so he looks like he was hit with rotten tomatoes all over his body. And this gelding here, if you get to looking at him, you'll see that he is dusty beyond what I can brush off. We got done trail riding yesterday. I turned him out and he celebrated by rolling in some new stone dust we had spread to keep things dry. And he turned sort of a strange grulla color and he's quite proud of himself. And so if you were to pat him, you'd probably see quite a bit of dust. That's a happy horse, but it probably doesn't present as well for this. Now, part of what I'm doing here, besides just running my mouth, is letting this colt kind of soak on being in here and not being on top of me. He would have liked to come up to me, and I backed him off to that point on the rope, and if I wanted to back him up a little more, I could. He needs to know how long that rope is, and he needs to be invited closer to this horse. This horse, likewise, has to be polite when we work together. I don't usually couple two videos, but the previous video called the 51% rule, Stumbling Your Way to Success, would be a good one to watch because it shows what we did with this colt to get to this point. It also shows in context the mistake that we've cut into the previous section of this video. Because that was not the smoothest performance I've ever put on. It also wasn't the worst. The worst, that'd be a hard contest and probably good watching. What I'm going to do now is just introduce him to that tarp again, maybe more in the way I should have last week. Recall that last week things worked out pretty nicely in the end, but I didn't get the whole way to do the things that I had wanted to do initially. So I just want this colt to remember how long the lead rope is, and if I want him out there, that's where he waits. And he's being good about it, but he started to creep up. I'll just sort of set him back there, and then I'll gather him up, and we'll go over and have a look at the tarp as it hangs there on the fence. And we're just going to let him go up and acquaint himself with it on his own time. We did all of this last week. I want to see how much stuck and how much we need to refresh. He doesn't have to step on that if he doesn't want to. A smarter fellow than me would have taken that rope down off the fence so it doesn't foul and tangle around him. But that's just another opportunity that I think I'll take to see what happens. So he stepped over that pretty calmly. This horse is doing what he did last week, and that is he's a little penny-eared with having a horse up alongside of him. I can't quarrel with his expression, but I can quarrel with his actions if he gets aggressive or cranky. So I kind of tuned him up a little bit in terms of attention this week, and hopefully he will be less likely to object to this colt coming up alongside of him than what he was last week. So we're going to go up here and give this another look. Let him mess around with that. Now if he kicks that up underneath him, that's just an opportunity for him to learn that that happens and it doesn't cause any big cause for alarm. The biggest antidote to fear is curiosity. A horse that's curious will generally be one that will go forward and encounter things because they kind of can't help themselves. So he gave himself a little bit of a fright there, but not so bad. We'll see if we can sort of ride across this. See how he feels about that. There you go. And I'm just letting him sort of find his own place on the lead rope here. There's an argument to be said for having him right up against you, but I've found that if you give them a little more space, especially when they're doing things on their own, it's a little more productive. So I'm going to bring him up with me now. What I'm going to do is take that tarp down off the fence. Whoop, go slip. There we go. Come on across here. And I'm going to do something now that I should have done last week. And as I always say when I'm working with a pony horse, you want your pony horse to be by nature somewhat fearless. And if not by nature, at least by training. And Slim's pretty much filling that bill. Now, I don't want that to get behind him. I'm going to pull this up to where he can follow it and it's not following him. And we're going to do this backwards. Hey! Now, that's exactly what I didn't want to see from either of them. And it's something that I kind of gave Slim a little suggestion on, but Mike started it. That doesn't mean that Slim should have taken the bait. So I'm just going to ride off. And I don't want to set up the same problem that I had last week, which I'm kind of close to doing. So if plan A isn't going quite according to plan, maybe you go to plan B. And if I'm going to drag this, it doesn't need to be on the end of a rope. See, that works out better. Just have to be a little bit flexible. And you can see, what I like is this allows him being Mike, to chase that tarp away from him. In fact, there he caught it. Good for you, Mike. This is what I should have done with him last week. Got 2 black ropes, and I probably kept the wrong rope. But we're going to be okay here. What do you think about that, Mike? So he got himself a little bit of a fright. But these are all things that are happening here, as opposed to happening when we're out on the trail and something comes blowing up against him, or when I try to get up on him and my jacket blows in the wind, or one thing or another. Let's just snag you here, buddy. I think I'll keep this tarp on a little shorter leash. And just let him track that a bit. And what Slim's doing that I appreciate, even though he wanted to be a little tough there a while ago, is he's creeping along just like I want him to creep along. And I'm not having to deal with him. Biggest challenge for me is keeping straight which rope is which. As long as I keep them both from around my neck, I'm probably going to survive this okay though. Get that sorted out. And this is kind of what I intended to do in the first place, is to do this when I can visualize him a little better and see what's going on. So if your saddle horse backs up decently, you can just sort of do this and keep an eye on what's going on there. And that's what bothers him, is when it gets off to the side like that. So we'll let him think about that and kind of soak on it and see that it's off to the side, and it's not going to chase him anywhere. It's not going to do anything particularly ugly to him. Most of the ugly stuff's been done by me, Mike. Thank you for not holding a grudge. See, and if he paws out underneath himself, sure, that's going to scare him. But it didn't hurt him. And he's figuring that it didn't. He had that hooked over his toe. What a wonderful opportunity. What a wonderful opportunity. So I'm going to lose this rope altogether, because the things I'm going to do right now, I don't really require it. If I need it, I can retrieve it. See, while I'm messing around here, this colt, Slim, you're a character now. You can tell he's not too scared of things. Drop that, you knucklehead. Just want to lose this other rope here. I'll let Slim sack everybody out here, including me. There we go. We got that rope sorted. And I got Slim and I have the tarp. What the hell, I'll let him help me. We worked long and hard to perfect that. I'm not sure you need that, buddy. What I don't want you to do is to swallow that, because that would not be the most nutritious thing, although this colt's never seen anything he didn't like to eat. So I'm going to approach him a little bit and just let this tarp flow around. And he can yield to that. That's completely okay. There's a difference between yielding and running away. So if you really asked what I'm doing, I'm playing. And horses know that it's okay to play with them a bit. So that's a nice change. That's a nice change. And now I'm getting finally to what my original goal was, and I hope I'm not too close to the camera here, is to get this tarp up above him a little bit where my old raggedy body might be in 6 months or so. And we'll get him out here more in the center. And the tarp's becoming just part of the scene for him. And I want to be part of the scene when I get on his back, not something that is like a scary object. I don't want to be a scary object. Let's see if we can yield his front end away with the tarp. Work on this other side just a little. And this tarp is pretty nice and crackly. I don't know whether any of that's coming through on the video, but some of these can get so old that they're just kind of like a piece of cloth, where this is more like that plasticky, crackly sound that I've never met a horse yet that liked that. They learn to tolerate it, but I don't think they especially like it. But we're getting him to where we're doing things when he's ready. If we had tried to do this when we first brought him out, we'd have had a wreck, which is why we had a little bit of a wreck the first day. Was I let him get into a position where something was happening that he wasn't ready to accept. That was my fault, not his. Slim, let's move ourselves over. This colt's actually being real good. As far as he moves away when the pony horse moves to him, and he's trying to be good. I'd just like to get up alongside of him. One thing about pony, and you notice what a horrible position my hands are in for riding this horse, but he just needs to put up with that. Because if you kept everything perfect, something else would move, and then that wouldn't be perfect, and you get nothing done. So I got my hands up around my hat brim, and this horse is broke enough, he says, oh, what the heck. Let's walk off. Now Mike's a little bit stalled. Like to get some of that stall out of him and just get this tarp up above him in motion. And that may be all we need to do today. Okay, Mikey, let's go ahead. And the previous video we did on this subject was called the 51% rule, or stumbling yourself to success in training your horse. And if you watch this process, I make more than a few stumbles, and I own them. But at the end of the day, you may also own a bit of progress, something like success, and that brings a lot of satisfaction. And what I feel like I'm doing is I'm not taking anything away from either horse, and they're both kind of advancing and becoming nicer guys. Yeah, that's a lot to ask. Now, hey, nope. It would be easy to get greedy and to say, let's do some really exotic things with this tarp. But just having him learn to tolerate it and wear it is what I set out to do today. And with thanks to both these guys, I'd say that mission is pretty much accomplished. When I throw it down beside him, that bothered him at first. It bothers him no more. I'm glad to see that. Let's see if I can back old Slim up here, bring Mike back through there. He didn't see any particular need to step on that tarp. Let's see if we can position him more where he wants to walk across at one time. Just come across there, and then we'll say cut. How's that? There you go. Not perfect, but not bad. So, that's a not very dramatic end to a session that could have gone wrong. Had a few rough patches, but not like the last time. And that's progress. And that's how it works with horses. So, till next time, keep your tarp dry, keep your saddle blankets wet, and we'll see you then.